So hey everybody, I want to thank you for registering for setting boundaries with your clients, setting your boundaries with clients. I think this is a really important topic. And just to call it out, for those of you who were on the live webinar earlier, I do have to record it. We had some technical difficulties with the recording, so I'm re-recording it to put up here on YouTube so we can send it out to those of you who may have missed it. I know I got some emails from a few people saying that the timing between Google Calendar and Outlook kind of messed things up. So regardless, here we are, and I'm recording this again. So one of the things that we want to start with is, does this sound familiar? Any of these things on the screen, have you experienced this? Clients who are very specific in how they want you to invoice them or send their billing. They only want to pay you one certain way, or maybe it's an emergency. According to them, it's an emergency. I am a firm believer in the fact that there is no such thing as a bookkeeping or accounting emergency. And I understand there are times, maybe payroll related, where there is something that is urgent. But again, at the end of it all, no one's life depends on any of the things that I do, even payroll. There's usually a way, if there is some sort of payroll mess up, that we can fix that or kind of put a Band-Aid on it until we can get it fixed properly. At the end of the day, no bookkeeping emergencies, right? And then the other thing that kind of is a little bit common is those clients that expect us to, or expect you just to be at their beck and literal call whenever they need to pick up the phone and have a conversation. So that's kind of what we're talking about, is some ways that you can make sure that that doesn't happen. Basically, life is too short. It's too short for a lot of things, and specifically to work with clients like this. Whether it's a man or a woman, I'm not going to work with a client who basically I know looks like this on the other end. It's just not going to happen. And I will fire clients if they happen to are verbally abusive or they're abusive via email. Basically, if they're not nice. I know there are times when they're upset, and if they can express that in an adult professional manner, I have no problems with that. I have no problems with them being angry if there are mistakes. But usually we bend over backwards, and we usually catch the mistakes before the clients are even aware of it. And that's a whole other webinar that we can talk about. But one of the things that I do is I will fire clients if they are not going to treat us and behave the way that they should behave. And so a perfect example of that is a client last year, the year before. My partner Shannon really went above and beyond after hours, helped a client via email while she was at, I think, a soccer game or a softball game with her kid, with her son, and really solved the problem for the client. And what happened was at the end, the client still wasn't happy because she wouldn't drop everything and pick up the phone. Never mind the fact that she was at a sports event, her son's practice or game, and couldn't pick up the phone and couldn't deal with it. She solved the problem, albeit it was not immediate and it wasn't over the phone. It wasn't exactly the way the client expected it to happen, but it was exactly the way that we had explained to the client that we work. And there's the difference. And the last straw for me was when the client told me there was no way he would ever let a family issue get in the way of a client. And I thought, this is not the client for us, because when it comes to family, that comes first. Our kids, my partner Shannon and I, our children come first before any clients. And if clients don't understand that, they're not going to be a good fit for Kildall Services. So we have ways to fix that, and we have ways to prevent that. And sometimes some slip through the cracks, like this client did. Looking back, there were a few red flags that maybe we should have probably not taken the client on. But those are learning experiences, and, we don't always get it right. I like to think that we do, but we still don't. So we have a dating process. Basically, we have what's called a quick review. And for any clients that come to us because they're not getting the reports they want, or they just know something is not right with QuickBooks, or clients that want us to do bookkeeping for them, we have a very specific onboarding process, and that involves a quick review. A quick review is exactly that. It's a prepaid data analysis of their QuickBooks file, and within 24 to 48 hours of getting access to their QuickBooks, whether it's desktop or online, we give them back a full report of everything that's wrong. We don't tell them how to fix it. We just tell them what needs to be fixed, and along with that, we give them a quote for cleanup. So by the time we're done with that, I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, we also use strong engagement letters that very clearly define the terms. An example of where this did not go awry, I got an email from a client today who was very disappointed that we didn't set up reports. That was not in our engagement letter, and it was 3 hours of training and a QuickBooks conversion, a QuickBooks Online conversion. At no point in the engagement letter did it state that I was going to prepare and set up any of the reports. I offered that after, and I offered that during training, but they said that they were okay, so we let it go at that. And you know, after 21 emails back and forth, I've gone above and beyond, and there's just, that was someone not reading an engagement letter. And at that point, I need to wash my hands of that client, because not anything is probably going to fix things for them. And this is where we have a process. We set the process and we let the client know what that process is. One of the ways that we do this is with our phone calls. We let clients know that if they need a phone call, we schedule all of our phone calls. We let them know very explicitly before we start working with them that if they need to speak with us, they need to schedule that call and give us an agenda. The reason why we do that, the agenda helps us to ensure we get everything that they need taken care of. And establish that timeline that works for you and obviously works for your client, and really enforce it. This morning we were on the phone, we had a conference call, scheduled conference call with a client about converting from Quicken to QBO. And he was talking about how he wanted things to look at the end of it. And I said, I'm really glad that you were letting us know. That helps us out greatly, but I don't want to get into too many of the details or get in the weeds with that, because right now I just need to focus on the first process, and that's getting you converted. And so I really very strongly enforce that, and then I cut the phone call short. And the other thing that we do is we use a client scoring matrix, and we grade our clients. And we do this on a regular basis. That ensures that we are kind of keeping the clients that really are good fits for us, or that are a good fit for us. And then if they're scoring low, we have a process to deal with that. And then again, if they trespass and they step over those boundaries, I'm all about giving some chances. But one of the problems is that, you know, I will give one or two and I'll tell them, hey, this is not in the engagement letter, I will do it this time. But then the next time it happens, I let them know that we have to bill them outside of the engagement letter. So you want to make sure that you set those boundaries, and if they overstep those boundaries, that you let them know. So when we're talking about client dating, that is really talking about basically the quick review process. And what the quick review process is that is us doing that data analysis. Then once we're done with that, we let them know what needs to be fixed, and along with that report, and it's pretty detailed, we give them a quote for the cleanup. When we're done with the cleanup, that's when we give them their free 1-hour consultation. We don't do a free 1-hour consultation on the front end, because most of the time, in my experience over 13 years of owning and running Kildall Services, they just want us to do a bunch of work for free, and we don't do that. So the free 1-hour consultation comes after the cleanup, where we establish what we do their needs analysis at that point. We establish what apps they may need in addition to QBO, and we really work on setting up an efficient back office process. And then we have our engagement letter, and these protections are really not just for us, but they also lay out exactly what we're going to be doing for the client, and it sets expectations. And yeah, it's protecting us, and you know, but it also is letting the client know if we deviate from this engagement letter, this is what's going to happen. We're going to bill you at our hourly rate for whatever tasks that we're doing that are not listed here in our engagement letter. So and it really outlines what our liabilities are, what our expectations are of the client, as well as what the client can expect from us. So I'm a very big fan of engagement letters. And we do an engagement letter for a quick review. We do a separate one for cleanup, and we do a separate one for any training or monthly services that come after our cleanup. So I'm very adamant about getting new engagement letters. And then grade your clients, and this is pretty important. So these are just some examples of some of the criteria we use to score our clients. So, and what's really great about this is if you have a team, everybody on that team may have a different perspective. I might think that a client understands that we work via email and text, but Shannon, my partner, may have a different experience or a different perspective because she might be getting a lot of calls that I don't know about, that maybe she's forgotten to let me know, or just that I'm just not aware of for whatever reason. And so she might give them a lower score on that, where I might give them a higher score. So it's really important, even if you don't have a team and you don't have staff that you work with, to find an accountability buddy that can help you go through this and maybe ask questions from a different perspective and be a little bit more objective. They don't have to know your client. They just have to understand what the criteria was, so they can really kind of maybe push you a little bit to have you think about things in a way that you're not normally going to think about them. One of the things at StacyK Academy, the Build Your Kick-Ass Practice, we have a private Facebook group, and it's pretty active, and they're very helpful, and it's closed, so it's not public. So if you have questions or concerns, or you need to kind of rant about something that has happened that you don't want anybody else in the community or your clients to possibly see, it's a really great forum to do that. And it's a great place to find an accountability buddy that will help you and maybe have you go through the client scoring matrix. You can do it together. And they don't need to know the details about the client, right? They just need to maybe kind of nudge you and ask questions. And also, if you decide to do Build Your Kick-Ass Practice, maybe you could help someone else go through their client scoring matrix also. And you have a plan, the client scoring matrix. There's a threshold. Usually anything under that threshold, they get fired. And then we have kind of a sort of a midway point where we may put them on some sort of probation. And when we put them on that probation, we have a very specific plan. We outline it. We let the client know these are the issues that we're having. Generally, they are things that we have continually had to talk to the client or email the client about that kind of keep happening. And so we tell them, if this doesn't happen within this amount of time, then we're going to have to do this. And this is our plan. And make sure that you stick to that time frame, that timeline. And that's with any project. I think it's really important to set your timeline and to set your time frame on what you're doing and really stick to that, and make sure that the client understands what the timing is on whatever it is you're doing, whether it's a project or whether it's trying to fix some issues that you have that you've discovered through that client scoring matrix. And if all else fails, it's a zero tolerance. If a client is not going to work the way that we need them, work with us the way that we want them to work, or they continually are calling and then getting upset because we're not answering the phone, or we can't take the call at that exact moment because we're out with our kids, or we're, working on another client, or we're in a meeting, or I'm doing a webinar, we will pretty much, and if they're going to be nasty about it, we will fire them. I will not tolerate clients that expect us to drop everything, that treat us as if they're our only client. If they are abusive in any way, I don't need that business. And I would much rather find a client that's going to work with us the way that we want, and that's beneficial for them as well as for us. So just fire them. It's not a big deal. And you don't have to be nasty about the firing. One of the things that I say when I fire a client is, our practice is moving in a different direction. And we think that you would be better served working with someone else. And 9 times out of 10, I will refer them to either someone local or someone that I know in the community that specializes in whatever their industry is. And again, we get into detail about all of this in the Build Your Kick-Ass Practice course at StacyK Academy. It's starting July 14th. 2016. So I'm posting this June 23rd, and we're starting in just a couple weeks. So I have just a couple call to action, some challenges for you if you're watching this. I'd love for you to visit the StacyK Academy Facebook page, and there's a pinned post on there that's asking you to share what your 2 boundaries are. What 2 boundaries can you put in place with your clients to start making it a better relationship, not just for you, but for your clients as well. So I know it was short. I know we had some questions in the original session. I apologize for not being able to answer those. Again, we had some technical issues with the recording, but I want to thank you for spending this time with me this afternoon. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you guys in StacyK Academy.